So we are talking about the Mink catcher, and I myself am still getting to know this film, so I'll have a lot to learn, but I want to get your thoughts on this film. You know, what's the inspiration and what's the message?
Oh, well, I can do inspiration.
Okay.
We've been working on a feature film for the last 3 years, developing a screenplay with my partner Marie Schlingman and our producer Danielle Kahn and the lovely Catherine Harper who's standing here with us right now. That's set in Dallas during the summer of 1980, during the full heat wave and the big presidential election, and female identity and how the city's identity shifts in that summer, and the identity of these women shift in the summer. And the original inspiration was my mom, because that's the time she went from being, a housewife to moving into politics and becoming a pretty hardcore, not to be messed with lobbyist in Washington, D.C. So the short it came out of us wanting to explore some of the characters from the feature and to explore the world visually while making it a piece that actually can still be a short film, not just completely lifted. So that's how we made it.
Excellent. So tell me this though. I mean, it's sort of a different game when you're working on short stories versus something full length. And I've always been curious about the different challenges that you face versus a feature length film. It's kind of a different set of challenges, I would imagine. So, what do you find is the biggest challenge that you have to kind of deal with when you're making a short film versus a full length film?
I think it starts with the script, and you have such little real estate that it has to be a story that can be contained in 10 to 12 minutes. And a lot of feature ideas, you have all of that time to allow these things these complicated things to unravel. So for us, we had all of these big ideas from the feature, and it was picking that one thing and kind of clamping onto that. And that's difficult because we were coming from a big place and trying to whittle it down to a small place. I think short films it's like short stories. It's a lot harder. Like my long-winded answer to this question, I'm more of the long form than I am the short form. I think it's incredibly difficult to try to make something work in that short amount of time and have that emotional impact.
Great. Okay, so tell us about the production design. I was noticing that this is your involvement in the story. And it's an interesting title. I'm guessing it's something symbolic. And I mean, how does that fit into the story?
I think that's more of a question for Sam.
Okay. All right.
The Mink.
The symbol of the Mink. Well, the movie is about a gossip columnist, a society columnist who's covering this Who Shot JR TV viewing party. And there's this whole story about the future First Lady has this amazing mink coat, and she's making an appearance. And there's almost a legend around that coat. I would say a big theme of the movie is the stories we tell and the lies we wear.
Oh, okay.
And it's a world where tags have meaning, and stories and legends around material things have potent meaning. So the mink is like a symbol for everything.
And what are your thoughts about this?
Well, I was brought in a little bit later on in the process. So I'm a Dallas girl. I'm actually from Houston, but I've adopted Dallas as my official hometown. And so when I was working at my regular job, which is for an animation studio, one of our producers actually knew Sam and Marie and Daniela and had worked with them on their Peabody Award-winning, to give Sam credit, a documentary called Best Kept Secret. And he said, I know these girls, and I know that you are looking to do more in film outside of the animated stuff, and you should meet them because they want to make a movie about Dallas. And I was like, I am in. So we had a phone call, and then I think we just really all hit it off. I think I know when to kind of stay out of their way, and they're really great to work with.
And she's very smart about story. I was telling you this today, that it's a nice thing, because you don't know when you start collaborating with people who you don't know how that's gonna work out and if it's gonna gel, and
it can go wrong, but it didn't here.
Yeah, all right.
Except with you, Rudak.
Yeah, except with Rudak. Can we talk about Rudak for a second? We could give you a lot of dialogue about that guy.
Okay. let's sum this up with the question that I guess you've already heard this one, but we'll see what kind of
I know, I want to know what
response we get. And for you as a production designer, this could really be interesting.
Okay.
If you could be involved, say as a production designer, would you choose Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh wow. Well, I would say as a viewer, I prefer Star Wars, but as a designer, I think I would rather go into Star Trek because there are so many different. I don't know, like the way they design their worlds is different. So even though there are different like societies in Star Wars, they all kind of tend to have the same tinge around them. And I think Star Trek really does more to differentiate between the different societies in the world.
This is like Sophie's choice. It's so hard. Okay, you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say Star Wars, and it's coming from a pure like emotional childhood thing. Because it's all truth. I didn't get Star Trek until I got older, and then I was like, this is brilliant. This is like about humanity and the world and all these different levels. But if I'm going to like my gut reaction, the kid in me is the whole like mythology of Star Wars. I'd have to choose it for that.
Interesting.
Because I think emotionally I could bring something to it.
Sure.
You know. So let me direct them. J.J. Abrams.
Okay, so we're going to continue our discussion about the Mink Catcher. Very interesting short film showing at the Dallas International Film Festival this year. First of all, congratulations on the film. Everybody's looking very nice tonight, by the way. But tell us about your experience. Just anybody who has a thought first, or if you want to just kind of go down the line, either way.
Almost like we time traveled back to the 80s with the sweater, the hair, the outfit. Maybe. The hair took approximately, one thing is what, an hour? Yeah, it took us a long time to make up a couple of fun overnights where you get really creative and a lot of bonding time. Yeah.
Okay.
That was one of my favorite things, was getting to know everybody, getting to work with all of these ladies, because it was a good group.
Yeah, it was like 2 overnights of just dress up. So we had big hair, crazy outfits,
Big
makeup, and it was just so much fun, and just celebrating the 80s and celebrating Dallas. And I'm a big Dallas fan, got a lot of Texas pride in me, so it was just a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay.
I say the same things that they say.
All right, okay. Now, I'm curious though, did you ever happen to get out in public while you were in that wardrobe by chance? Did you get some like kind of double takes or anything like that?
Hair on the way to shoot, kept showing up with rollers in the hair. So
I would get stuck in traffic. So since it was a night shoot, we were released at like 6 in the morning in downtown Dallas, and so I was trying to drive home, and I was stuck in morning traffic, and so I had huge hair and tons of makeup, just sitting there with people like staring at me on the highway.
All right.
Pretty crazy.
It's not always a bad thing. And with the retro fashion kind of making its way back in, who knows? Maybe people are getting new ideas. Gosh. All right, so tell us about the story, because we know there's sort of a lot of background about strong women, and so how did that translate from the people making the film and to the film itself? What was the explanation? What did you take away from that going into it?
I think a lot of the strong feminine point of views came through in the characters that were created and developed for the film.
Okay.
From Libby the journalist to the First Lady of Dallas, they both had a strong perspective of what it meant to be female faced with their own current situations. One's a journalist trying to make a name for herself, which with female writers always do more work outside of just socialite reporting. And then you also had the First Lady of Dallas, who's essentially living in her husband's shadow. How does she identify as an individual within that situation? So you have two characters meeting at a really interesting point in both of their lives and careers. So it's kind of great, and we got to personify that individually as well, being these socialite women at a party with one another and dealing with their own unique twists and points of views within that party setting.
That's interesting. So, you know, it sort of rewinds back to 1980, and then here we are in 2016. So, what do you see as being some major differences compared to that versus now?
Technology?
Obviously.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, we still face the same type of issues and struggles as we did in the 80s. The only difference is, in my opinion, it's more personified. It's out in public as opposed to potentially behind closed doors. So the experiences that these women had that night were lived basically in a party at 15, where now they could be in front of 15,000. So it's a huge pivot between how you deal with life in a public forum.
I do think we're taking it a little more seriously. I think the 80s that was part of the film of like women's rights and not necessarily rights, but actually like the vote for power and like in the government, and so she's, you know, the mayor's wife and things like that. So I feel like now it's still a little bit of a struggle, but we are definitely heard a lot more, which I appreciate.
We actually have one final question just for that nerd show, since there's a lot of you. We're going to go right down the line when he asks the question.
If you could be involved in any way, would you pick Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh my gosh. Really? Star Trek or Star Wars? Okay. Right. Which way are you going?
We can start down here. It's fine. Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to do Star Wars purely because of Chewbacca. I feel like we would get along really well. Like we get each other.
All right.
So that's the only reason.
Great.
That was good.
Well,
It's really good.
It's legit, guys.
See, I would say Star Wars too, but now my reason sounds so lame. I just love it. I love it. Good. Star Wars.
All right.
I'll just say Star Trek.
All right.
They had some really cool science.
Yeah.
In their, episodes that you see today now, so they were very much ahead
It's
of
true.
their time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good point.
We're gonna go Star Wars, R2D2, just like
Definitely Star Wars.
Okay. Excellent. Well, we appreciate your spending some time with us here.
Great question.
All right.
Great answers, by the way.
Yeah.
Now I see your T-shirt.
I'm not saying we're not biased.